Hello everybody and welcome back to another Marvel Crisis Protocol custom character creation episode. And for this week's episode, we're going to be going ahead and creating Sergeant Avery Johnson from the Halo franchise. So yeah, really excited to get into this one. Sergeant Johnson is obviously a very well loved character in the Halo franchise, but for those who are slightly less familiar with him, we're going to go ahead and take a quick wiki dive as we usually do. However, I am going to give a little bit of a warning for this one that the wiki dive for Johnson contains some story information right at the top of the page. So if you have not played through Halo 1, 2, and 3 at the very least, and care about spoilers, then maybe either skip this part or maybe just do that and then come back and watch this video at a later date because, yeah, don't want to spoil anything for anyone. So, yeah, we're going to go ahead and jump into that. Alrighty, so from the Halopedia here, Sergeant Major Avery Jr. Johnson was a senior non-commissioned officer of the UNSC Marine Corps who served during the fight against the insurrection and the Human Covenant War. He was a highly trained Marine who also served with various units of the Naval Special Warfare Command and most notably the highly classified Orion Project, the UNSC's first super soldier program, also referred to as the Spartan 1 project. So, yeah, he's, not quite the same level of augmentations and certainly nowhere near the armor as the Master Chief, but he's no ordinary dude either. He played a vital role over the course of the Covenant War. He resisted the Covenant's attack on Harvest at the outbreak of the war and went on to participate in numerous engagements. In the war's final months, he fought in the Battle of Reach, on Installation 04, at Earth, on Installation 05, and on the Ark and Installation 08. He was key to the formation of an alliance between humanity and Thelvadim, also known as the Arbiter, and the Fleet of Retribution following the Great Schism in November 2552. Ultimately, he was killed by Monitor 343 Guilty Spark, who we created last week, while attempting to prematurely activate Installation 08. So, yeah, obviously big spoilers there if you haven't played the end of Halo 3, so hopefully you have and you heeded the warning at the beginning of this video, but if not, I do apologize. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and get into designing the character. So, first things first, we're going to go ahead and look at some of the stats here. So, for stamina, I was not 100% sure what I wanted to do for this, but I'm kind of leaning towards making him a 5-6 split here. I don't want him to be super bulky, that's not really what he is, but I feel like, he should be bulkier than your average dude, and I think 5-5 is kind of what I see as, like, the default, quote-unquote. So, yeah, I think 5-6 is where I kind of want to go with that. And then for defenses, for the most part, I think 3-3-3 would be fine, but I'm going to lean towards giving him a slightly higher physical. He takes a lot of punishment in those games, so I think it's only fair. But yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward from there. Oh, I almost forgot we got to do his movement speed, because slow doesn't really make any sense. I'm just going to do medium. Don't think we need anything too crazy. Alrighty, from there we get into weapons, and I'm going to be giving him at least two. I want to give him just kind of a basic rifle sort of weapon, and then I'm going to give him the Spartan laser as his spender because I just think that's really cool and kind of one of his most iconic weapons. So yeah, I think that kind of makes sense for his second one. We're going to do the blazer, and for the first one, I think it's just going to be probably just a regular assault rifle. I debated the shotgun or the battle rifle or the SMG. Some of them would perform very similarly to others. Honestly, many of them would perform very similarly to others. But I think I'm just going to go with the assault rifle. Also makes things a little bit easier. We can kind of copy some of what we did with Master Chiefs there. So yeah, I think we just do the MA5B and kind of go from there. The other question is, do I want to give him a third attack, something like the frag grenade attack? And I'm kind of leaning towards it. I'm thinking it would be like a one cost, it would have an explosive, and then incinerate, which is what most grenades do in this game, doesn't feel quite right for the frag grenade. That would kind of feel better for like the plasma grenade or something like that. So I'm thinking maybe bleed, but obviously that's not necessarily strong enough to be worth the extra power. So probably give it A, better numbers, and B, maybe make the bleed also part of the explosive. I think that sounds like it could at least be interesting. We'll see. If it feels weak, we'll talk about maybe tweaking it. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and write out at least the first two attacks. We'll talk some more on the blazer, though. Alrighty, so before I move on to making the other weapons here, I did end up deviating a fair bit from the assault rifle that I gave Master Chief, and the reason for that was I realized the one that I gave Master Chief, its thing was a bleed, and that's a little bit of a problem here when we're talking about the frag grenade probably just throwing out the bleed condition. So I decided to make his assault rifle a wild pierce, but then I figured that was probably too strong to still have it be a rapid fire gun, so we took the rapid fire away, and yeah, it's just a really, really effective range 4 gun. Might be too strong because I'm probably leaning towards something like a 3 threat for this character, so that might be too strong, but we'll see, and we'll kind of balance things out if we need to near the end. But I don't think it's too bad. It's, you know, a 5 dice builder that has a wild pierce. That's nothing too crazy. We've certainly seen similarly strength things on other lower threat characters before. Range 4 does make it really good, but I think it's probably fine. In terms of the frag grenade, I was kind of thinking something along the lines of, first of all, we give it an extra die, maybe even two, but probably just one. I think we do 6 dice for 1 or 2 power. I don't want to make it too cheap because, again, we're trying to make him a lower threat character here since I seem to have a problem and I do a lot of very high threat characters. We're going to make it range 3, can't go quite as far with this as he can with his assault rifle. And then, yeah, I think we just kind of give it the two things. So we give it explosive, probably on a wild or something like that. And then we also give it the maybe like a crit for bleed, and characters within 2 also get bleed. So the idea is, yeah, you can make a bunch of characters bleed at once, do a bunch of damage to a lot of characters at once, and the more I talk about this, the more I think it should probably be 2 power, so that seems fair to me. But yeah, I think that'll be at least an interesting kind of mini spender here. Alrighty, and there we have the frag grenade attack. So it's range 3, 6 dice, 2 cost, and it's got a wild explosive, which can hit damage allies and himself. It's just not the target, obviously. And then it's got a crit frag, which gives the target and characters within 2 of the target the bleed special condition. Again, capable of damaging allies, so you got to be somewhat mindful with that. But yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable for a grenade like this. If anything, it might be slightly too weak, but I'm not too worried about it. I think it's kind of meeting the idea that I had for it as just kind of a good way of splashing damage in an area and just a bit of a toolboxy attack more than anything. So with that done, we're going to go ahead and move on to the Splazer. So the Spartan Laser, for those who haven't played the Halo games, is really powerful. It shoots a massive laser. It has some like long wind up chime, which I think we can kind of just get into with how much power it costs. Although, you know, you can make an argument maybe it should, I don't know, take both of your actions to fire or something like that. Could be an interesting mechanic, but I don't think that's what we're going to go with for today. I think it's just going to be a relatively high cost attack. I'm thinking probably about 6, and it's going to be a, I'm just going to make it range 5 and probably something like 8 or 9 dice energy attack. Let's go with 9. I think 9 is fine. Because it's relatively expensive. So I think we can get away with 9. And yeah, it's gonna be a 9 dice energy attack that's going to, I'm considering whether or not I want to make it a beam. If I make it a beam, I probably have to knock it down in some way. But I think we're gonna leave it as single target because you can get collaterals with them, but that's not usually how they're used, so I think it's fine as a single target. But with it, we're going to put at least a couple things on it. The first one, I think, just being incinerate. Pretty straightforward. It'll have probably auto incinerate for a 6 cost attack. Maybe I bump it down to 5. I think I bump it down to 5. I think I do 5 and 8 dice. And we'll give it the auto incinerate, and I don't know, I feel like it needs something else, but I'm not entirely sure what. Alright, so having thought on it some more, I think I'm just going to give it a wild stagger is kind of what I'm leaning towards. That feels like it kind of works for the weapon, because like it definitely is one of those weapons where when you get hit by that, you shouldn't be getting back up right away. And yeah, I think that works for me. It's kind of between that or like making it a beam or giving it some sort of splash damage. And I think the Wild Stagger is probably the best way to go about it. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and do that. Alrighty, and there we have the Spartan laser all written out there. So it's got an auto incinerate and a wild stagger, and it's just throwing 8 dice at range 5. So yeah, I think it seems like a pretty decent attack for a kind of lower threat character here. So now I think it's time to move on to superpowers, unless we want to give him a fourth attack. I mean, in theory, with the amount of weapons he has wielded and been seen wielding in the games, could go all day with those. But I think it's time we move on to superpowers, where the first one I want to give him is probably just hit and run. I think that just makes a lot of sense for the character. He's very he's very capable of doing that sort of thing, and I want to give him some mobility. It makes him feel a little bit better as kind of a more turrety piece. So yeah, I think that's what we're gonna throw on here next. Alrighty, so after a little bit of deliberation on what I wanted to give him next, I think something kind of like Blade and Agent Venom's ability to kind of cleanse conditions could kind of work for him. I'm getting inspiration here from specifically Agent Venom. Project Rebirth 2.0, I was just kind of thinking, the Orion Project, that's a good way to kind of represent that for him. So yeah, I think we're just going to give him Agent Venom's condition cleansing there, and I think that's a nice little piece of extra tech for him. And boom, very, very simple, straightforward superpower, but I think gives him a little bit of extra versatility. Alrighty, the last thing I want to give him on this side of his card, at least, because I do have something else I want to give him on his flip side, is actually the Shot Caller superpower from Silver Sable, where basically he gets to pick another allied character and advance them small, and then they get to gain 1 power. And I think it just kind of works well for him. He's kind of a field leader. He's always kind of ordering the other Marines around and stuff like that. So it kind of works for me, especially since a lot of his stuff, a lot of his voice lines in the game are, just telling other Marines to get moving. So yeah, I think it works pretty well for him. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw that on his card. Alrighty, and there we have Get Tactical Marines. So, yeah, you get to pick an allied character, advance them small, and then they're going to gain some power. Yeah, I think that just kind of works for what his character is kind of all about. So, yeah, I'm kind of liking where we're at so far with him. He's going to kind of sit towards the back. He's going to be firing out those range 4s, building power relatively consistently with a Wild Pierce on that 5 dice builder. And then he's got the hit and run to be able to kind of keep his distance, remove special conditions if those come up. He's not going to love having shock, especially with how power hungry he is, or even like stun or anything like that. So being able to peel some of those conditions off himself, certainly going to be a nice little extra thing he can do. But then the big thing he's going to be doing is fairly consistently, as long as he's able to double tap, he'll be able to move someone else on the team around and give them some power. So yeah, I think that works pretty well for me. I do have one more superpower I want to give him, but we're going to do that on the flip side after we copy everything over there. Alrighty, so on the flip side, as I mentioned, I did want to bump him up to 6 stamina, so we're going to go ahead and do that. And then I want to give him one final superpower. This is going to be a passive superpower, and basically what I want this to be is on KO, when he would be KO'd, he's going to pass the Spartan laser off to another allied character, and they're going to get to shoot with it. Really, really powerful KO effect. Huge deterrent for your opponent to try and take him down, which I think will kind of help make up for the lack of defensive tech that he has, because really he is just dice, and I guess removing conditions can be defensive tech depending which ones they throw on you. But yeah, I think the big idea is kind of going to be he'll be relatively squishy on the front. If they want to take him down, they will. But on the back, if they take him down, you're getting a free 8 dicer out of it. So yeah, I think it's potentially going to be really, really strong. But again, the point of this series, more than to make balanced characters, is to make fun and interesting characters, and I think that at least will be an interesting ability. One you probably won't get to use that much because most opponents probably wouldn't let you use it, but yeah, I think it's kind of cool and very much fits kind of the ending of the character, where he blasts a guilty spark, and then he gives you the laser, and you have to finish the job now. So yeah, I think it's kind of a cool way of representing that part of the character. Alrighty, so now we have the Send Me Out with a Bang superpower. So when this character would be KO'd by an enemy effect, you may choose an allied character. That character immediately makes a Spartan laser attack before this character is KO'd. Then this character is KO'd. So yeah, basically the thought process here, because originally I was like, oh well, you have to be able to pass it off to them, so maybe make it like range 2 or range 3. But I think that's really really easy for your opponent to play around and just kind of be like, well, we're just gonna throw them out of range of the rest of your dudes and then kill them with a range attack, and yeah, that doesn't feel great. So yeah, I wanted to make sure you'd be able to do it no matter what. I thought about maybe just giving it a really long range, but that also still just kind of defeats the point. If it's like range 4 or range 5, then it might as well just be the entire board. Like, it's, yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about it. Maybe I should make it that the attack has to target the character that KO'd him. I wouldn't hate that. You know what? I'm gonna play around with that. Okay, so I've reworded it slightly. It now says targeting the enemy character that caused the effect. I also removed some of the redundancy because I don't actually think it needs to have the line that says then this character is KO'd. I was looking at the Blood Despair card and it doesn't mention that then this character is dazed, so I think it's fine. But yeah, so that works for me. That feels a little bit better because now they at least need to be in range to have attacked the character that hit you, and that feels better. So yeah, I think that's at least closer to what we're kind of going for there. And yeah, I think that's pretty much going to do it for Johnson here. There was a lot of things I wanted to try and squeeze onto his card. Mainly just because he's got so many really good iconic quotes, but half of them are to do with tanks, and that doesn't really get represented super well in a game like MCP. So this was definitely an awkward one. I really, really wanted to find something for two sticks in a rock, or and we had to share the rock. I even considered just calling the frag grenade the rock, but felt like that might get lost a little bit, and isn't really the point of what the line was. So felt a little out of place. Same for just like some of his speech lines, motivational device, or they're referring to the tank as divine intervention, that sort of thing. Again, referring to the tank in both of these cases. So I didn't really know how to properly capture that on an MCP character card where it's kind of just the character, not the character in a tank. So could be kind of cool down the line if we ever see like more base sizes or types of things like that introduced for MCP. If we see like a Robbie Reyes down the line, and like the car is either like a terrain piece or he just comes with like a really large base or something like that, could be neat to try and kind of revisit some of these characters and see what kind of interesting things we can do with them in regards to stuff like that. But as it stands right now, we're just kind of focusing on the character in his ground interactions, so we don't get to use some of those kind of iconic quotes with him. But I still think we did a pretty decent job at representing the character here. He's kind of got that. I keep trying to click the corners to flip. I'm so used to the normal viewer, not the editor. Um, but he's got the kind of iconic weapon with him being the Spartan laser, other weapons that he uses. But he's got the hit and run and the get tactical marines to kind of represent how he operates on the field. The Orion project's referenced with removing his conditions, and then of course the send me out with a bang, which is probably my favorite part of the character card here. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for Johnson, and I do think we can leave him as a 3 threat here. There's an argument if we bump a couple numbers, he could probably be a 4, but he really does feel like a 3 to me. He's fairly squishy. He hits reasonably hard, especially if he's got that Splazer going, but the basic attacks are nothing too crazy, so I think that's fine. Yeah, I think he's kind of very solidly in the 3 section. If we wanted to make him a 4, we definitely could, but I think that's not really worth doing, and I think 3 is kind of where I wanted to be with him anyways, so pretty happy with that overall. So yeah, I think that's just about going to do it for this custom character creation video. I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you did, please do drop a like down below. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. We do obviously this series every week, as well as a bunch of other discussion focused content on the weekdays, and we've got some battle reports on the weekends. So if you're a fan of any of that sort of thing, feel free to jump on in. But that's going to do it for this one. So until next time, have a great day, everybody. Peace.